Off the Shelf. I'm your host, Yvonne Wolf. Today, our special guest is physician assistant at North Shore University Health Systems and author Heather Lingner. She's here with her 2 books, Kitty Hat and Hey, Wait Up. Welcome, Heather.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell us about your experience. I mean, as an author, who motivated you to write Kitty Hat?
Well, ultimately my daughter. She didn't know it at the time, but I hadn't really been familiar with a lot of children's books until she came along, and then at which point you end up reading thousands of them.
Yes.
And then knowing you go through
do.
and you decide, oh, that one's really good, and that one's really bad. And then you wonder how in the world it got published and things like that. And so, you sit, you read it, and then you go, I can do better than that. I can do better than that. And so for her, reading with all of those books and things like that, and then sleeping one night, my cat Onyx, she loves to sleep on my head. She got up there, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if Onyx got tangled in my hair for the day, and what kind of wild ride would we go on? I'm like, why don't I put her in my daughter Harper's hair and see what we can come up with? And so I thought, well, I can do better. I'm going to do this. And then we were reading a lot of rhyming books at the time, and I thought, well, let's rhyme and let's see what we can do with that.
Not easy.
It is not easy.
not as you think it is.
Exactly. And so I tried to come up with, the story and what we could do with the rhyming and stuff, and it was really difficult, but it was a lot of fun to try to do and put together. So we were able to come up with a really cute story for that, and then I pretty much thought that was a one and done, and just kind of have somebody help to illustrate and put some out. But
well, what a nice project with your daughter, right? You will always remember that.
Yeah,
Even let's say the book didn't get published, you were still
exactly, and that wasn't my intention, was to actually publish the book. It was just kind of put together something, and then just have someone illustrate, and then just make some copies, and then. But she loved hearing the story evolve, and then seeing my very poor stick figures of like, this is what I want it to look like. And she had a lot to say, and she wanted to see this and that, and loved
Harper?
just seeing,
Yes, your daughter,
she loved seeing how it came about and stuff like that. And then as that was in the process, I was like, oh, this would be fun. It was enjoyable going through the process that we can talk about, but it was just,
so it's not like
came up with another idea.
Yeah, so it's not something like you want to drop it and then you can't.
Exactly. You're like, we can come up with another idea, and she did. We're driving to church, and she sees some birds, and she said, wouldn't it be funny to see a bird on a car taking a ride someplace? And I was like, well, that could be a fun idea. Let's see what we can do with that. And so we'd love to brainstorm ideas. And then that's when we came up with Hey, Wait Up, is we've got Joe who's taking rides across the sky trying to catch up with his buddies. And it was a lot of fun. She was like, well, what if we do this? And what if we do that?
Oh, I find
so she was really enjoying the process with it too.
I find both very creative.
Oh, thank you.
Both have a journey type of theme, and that's a really creative way it goes, right?
Oh,
so
thanks. Yeah.
Wherever you
it was fun.
end up. So and very positive, of course. I mean, children's books have that message, and making mistakes and fixing them, and that's
kind of like life.
Yeah, and that's a really sweet message. And so let's talk a little bit about your illustrator. How do you find an illustrator for such, or did you through your publisher? Yeah.
So exactly. So these are both self-published, but originally starting with Kitty Hat, it was, I came up with something. It was all I wanted to do was have someone I know just kind of put some pictures together, and I go to Kinko's and have a couple copies and say, here, Mom, there we go. And that was going to be the end of it and stuff. And that was a very slow process. It was taking 3 years. We were at the point. And then I had a serendipitous meeting with children's author PJ Hartness, and she's like, I was telling her my idea and everything. She's like, well, why don't you just self-publish it? And I'm like, yeah, but you get online, you look at like BookBaby and all these things, and you're like, it's overwhelming. And she's like, no, I help guide people through my company, Whistle Slick Press, to self-publish, and we help line people up with illustrators and printers and things like this, and get different flavors. And so I worked with Tracy Hayes to do Kitty Hat, and it was very exciting to sit there and just watch it come alive, you know, and you get pictures in your inbox every other day or something. You're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing and stuff. And she just really made Onyx and Harper just vibrant in that book. And then
I mean, it must be hard to decide what, you know, Harper's going to look like or Onyx is going to look like.
we went through a lot of iterations and then finally came up with this very cute version.
Yes.
And then sent it to the printers. It came back and it had this beautiful velvety feel of the covers. And I was like, I love this. And that was through Smith Printing and stuff. It was just wonderful. And then while that was all in process, because I figured I was only going to go to Kinko's, you know. And so then because I decided to self-publish and do it for real, I was like, well, why not? That's when we were writing that at the same time. Kitty Hat was in process.
Oh, so they were simultaneous.
Kind of, because Kitty had been so long. It was already written and already my ideas were down on paper and what I wanted it to look like. So then I just needed some real help. And so while that was kind of sitting at the printers, because that's a forever silent process of just waiting for it to come back. And so that's when we kind of jumped on and just started the process over again. And I used Ashley Casalino as my illustrator for that, because just a different flavor. Work with someone else and just see, you know, because why not?
And you found her through
also through Whistle Slick Press. Nice. They have a number of illustrators that they've used with different authors, and so they're just kind of like, you might like so-and-so, you might like so-and-so, and she's super easy to work with and just had sweet pictures of Joe and all his crazy buddies and flights and all, you know, everything that could go wrong with that. And so went back through Smith Printing because I loved how Kitty Hat felt and I wanted that again, just that vibrancy and just that soft velvety feel. And so it was just a really exciting, I don't want to say really easy process, but at the same time it kind of was. They really helped. You just kind of like, now you need this and let's do this and we want to do this, and just kind of helped you line up your ducks and made it as smooth as could be.
So is it with your, did you have an editor? I mean, how would you pick the pictures to, you know, were there more than you needed, right?
I didn't have a formal editor. I would sit there and pore over my text over and over and try to find where I was messing up and everything like that. And then, of course, going through Whistle Slick Press, they really helped by rereading, and they'd be like, oh, you got this. So it wasn't a formal editing, but I really spent a lot of time trying to pay attention to it. And then being a little bit type A, I had, how did I want both books to look in my head? And so I sat down, and this is what I kind of want the main characters to look like. I drew out very poorly in stick figure form, but this is how I want everything to look. So when I gave it to the illustrator, we're talking a 30-page document of here is the text that I want on the pages. This is what I want the picture to look like. And then I typed out what exactly I was thinking in my head, because if you couldn't see it from the stick figure, that's what I want. So I tried to be as particular, and then working with the illustrators, then them trying to put my vision in mind. And there were some changes along the way and stuff like that, and I had to change my vision, and you know, and they were accommodating to what I wanted.
Yes, so
but it was really neat to see it come together, because I was like, that is what I see in my head. So.
Yes, and illustrators have a great way of seeing a book, right? They have seeing the action in the story.
Exactly.
So, they're visual people.
Exactly, and I am not when it comes to putting what I see in my head down on paper.
So I'm sure that structure helped guide the process, you know, to...
Yeah, I think it made it easy for both of us, so they weren't guessing as to what I wanted, just based on the text, and then I was able to clearly communicate with them what I wanted, and then we could work together to bring it to life.
So I see that, hey, wait up, didn't go with rhyming, but...
No, it's hard.
Phew, you know,
but I was like, it's harder to get the bird jokes in there when you're rhyming. Yes. So I thought, let's just make it a wild ride.
There's a lot of puns.
It's yes.
There's a lot of work to write puns as well. Right? Yeah. People don't realize how much.
And I wanted it to be to where you're kind of inside Joe's head as he's going, and so that you are like, now you're invested. You're like, what's going to happen now to this poor bird, you know, and stuff, and who's he going to run into, and everything, and just to kind of get in there, and so that you're like thinking what he's thinking. And so I was a little verbose, I know that, but at the same time, I think it kind of helped you to keep moving along with that and really get you invested in him.
Yeah.
So you wanted to know what's going to happen at the end,
Right.
but it just made it feel very friendly, just kind of keep moving along with him on his crazy ride.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I can see that. You can see the action.
Yeah.
There's a lot of twists and turns.
Yeah.
So who is your intended audience? Usually with children's book, there's an age group,
Yeah.
right? There's a band, or they don't want you to stretch beyond middle school, let's say, right?
And that's it. And they're both different, I would say. Kitty Hat is probably for that preschooler, the young preschooler, toddler even, up through, I'd say, early first grade. And it all depends on the kid, of course. But Hey, Wait Up is for the older, and I would go with about kindergartenish through second, maybe third grade. And I tried to write them enough to where the kids would really enjoy them, but the adults who are reading it to them wouldn't be like, oh, another book, but to try to make it fun for them as well. And throw in those nuggets, especially in Hey, Wait Up.
Yeah.
The adults like, oh, I get that one.
Yes,
Okay, so
yes,
that they
that's
had
great.
fun along with it.
Oh, very much. And so did you have to cut out certain pages, or did you have to stay within that? Is it 36 pages?
I
or
went to
what is it?
32, yeah.
32 page, yeah.
And it was
Limit?
easier along the lines with Kitty Hat
Yes.
because you don't go on forever and ever with the rhyming. But for Hey, I did have to really compact it. And that was, again, I'm verbose. And so that I just want to keep talking with it. But I had a lot of rides that we didn't put in. And so I wanted to kind of keep it shorter, keep it within that 32 pages, but still get the fun in. And so I think if I would have included all of them, it would have been easy a 50-page book.
So he had many eventually.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, you can save it for a sequel.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a series. Look at Pigeon, right?
Oh, exactly, yeah.
How would we have anticipated Pigeon going
With a
many
hot
books,
dog
right,
and
right,
on the
as
bus
many
and all
books
that.
as it's incredible. So what, let's see. So Heather,
Yeah.
where have you read this book out loud?
Oh, yeah. I have really been honored to be at the Skokie Library. They have their children's author, local author showcase. And I had Kitty Hat there last year, and I'll be coming up in November again, actually, for them. And then also at the Stickney Library, I read Kitty Hat. And that one was so sweet because one of the girls that came to watch, I always bring a little stuffed onyx.
Yeah.
And through the whole reading of Kitty Hat, she sat with onyx on her head and just watching. So she had her own kitty hat when we were reading that. And then I've also been at Volumes Book Cafe. And then for both Kitty Hat and Hey, Wait Up, I was at the Shullsburg, Wisconsin, and the Hazel Green, Wisconsin libraries. They welcomed
that,
me
yeah.
in and stuff, and that was
Wonderful.
really amazing to be up there. Yeah.
So how did you contact them, or did?
Well,
Because you're not.
yeah.
From
So
Wisconsin,
the locals, the Skokie, putting in and hoping I'd get something for the local author. Stickney Library, my best friend's mom was a librarian there, and so
Okay.
she helped hook me up there. And then for Volumes, I had a friend of a friend of a friend, this kind of roundabout, so they were able to get me in. But for the two Wisconsin libraries, my brother lives in Shullsburg and
Wonderful,
has a
yeah.
good relationship with the library, and he just walked right in with the books and said, my sister wrote some books. You want to have her come in and read? And they're like, yes.
That's amazing.
And
That's
so
great. So you have to approach. And,
so
yeah,
he set that up for me, and it was really lovely. Even going up there to do the reading, coming in, and I saw the books all libraried up at the front desk, the little LIN on the spine, and the barcode to check out, and stuff. I was like, oh, my book's in a library. And stuff. And it was really exciting.
It is.
And she
It's
said that
amazing.
they actually had to put a hold on the books so that they would be there for when I came to
Yes.
do my reading.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, but if people are checking them out, do they like them? She's like, we hear really good reviews on them. So I was like, okay, that's great.
Then that
So, yeah.
leads me to the next question. What is the response when you read aloud?
I mean,
And I
I'm
love that
hoping
story
people aren't
with the-
lying to me, but I have gotten really great reviews. Just people are like, that was really sweet, that was cute, that was funny, you know, and stuff. And then even had some friends send me videos of their kids saying thank you, or showing me pictures of the kids reading the book, reading or looking at the pictures, depends on the age, but without anybody knowing that they're being watched and they're going through the book and stuff. So it's like, that's really cool.
Yeah, a real authentic experience.
Yeah, exactly. And just, I've had friends tell me, one of my coworkers, he said that he'd come home from work and his little son, you know, year-and-a-half-year-old, would come up with kitty hat in hand going, Daddy book, Daddy book. And he said he was thankful that the book was enjoyable because he's had to read it over 50 times. He's like,
Yes,
okay,
that's what
we can do
happens,
this.
right, when they
And I hear a
hang
lot
on to
of people say how their kids are wearing different stuffed animals on their heads
Yeah.
while they're reading kitty hat, you know, and
Right,
stuff. So
right.
it's really been pretty
engaging,
cool.
very engaging.
Yeah.
So are you seeing these videos through Instagram or Facebook or YouTube? What kind of social media connection are you making?
Yeah, I have a
out there?
very minimal social media presence. I do have an Instagram account at Heather Lingner 1, and I try to post stuff on there, especially like if I'm going to have an upcoming reading or something like that, you know, up to it, or when the books came out, that was when I started it. And so I'm trying to do that, and some people
That's
have,
a good idea.
you know, replied on different things for it. I'm not huge on Facebook, just my own comfort level and things like that. I had heard that Instagram's kind of easy, so I do that. I am not technologically savvy, so anything like that is very
Do you have a
overwhelming.
website? That's what
No,
I hear. A lot
not
of
yet.
authors are working on one.
I've debated, but I'm like, I only have 2 books.
That's
You know, so
not-
I'm like,
that's
do
not too
I-
few. Let me
Yeah.
just say, there are lots of authors with one book. You know,
And so I don't know. I might do something like that, especially if I decide to maybe do a few more or
Right,
something
right.
like that and see how to do it. But for right now, it's just, you know, I sell through myself, and just advertise on Instagram that way. But it's mostly just a word of mouth kind of thing of
Yes.
me, you know,
But-
approaching my friends and groups of people. So
There's a lot to develop. Once you've done a few
Yeah.
readings, you know, there's more around this area, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm really
lots of
hoping to do a lot
opportunities.
more. I have the Ramona, where my daughter goes to school. They have the Read Across America in the spring, and they've asked me to come in and be a part of that as well. So that's really cool.
Oh, that is.
Yeah.
That is. It's just, and it's not, I mean, it's a book for all seasons, right?
Yeah,
These are
yeah.
not tied to any, because we hear also about Christmas and children's books. It's just one season. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just, well, it's very fun. I love to hear about your creativity and how it builds relationships, not just with your daughter, but with many readers.
Yeah.
So Heather, what advice do you have for other writers out there? I suppose picture book or children's picture books, right?
Yeah, if you've got an idea in your head, just start putting it down. It doesn't have to be perfect to start with. Just kind of work through it. Draw out, even if you can't draw, kind of what is in your head. What's your idea? What do you want it to look like? That's kind of what I did. Just kind of the slow what was there, and just kind of sketch it out and stuff. And you can always find someone to help to work with to make it look like what's in your head, and
So don't
put
let
it
that
together.
stop you,
Don't let
right?
it stop
You're
you.
not an artist yourself.
Exactly, yeah. And because I was like, well, I can't just put out a book with my drawings. It's, you know, you can't do that. And so it's trying to find someone. And there are lots of people that can try to help with that. And so just start and see what happens.
And what connects you to Glenview?
Well, I do live in Wilmette. Don't hold that against me. But being a physician assistant in interventional radiology and working for North Shore, I am at Glenbrook Hospital a lot.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter which hospital I'm at. I have patients from Glenview all the time.
Yes.
So just being part of that community that way.
Now, how do you balance writing a book while you're working full time, right? Because many of our guests are retired or have some time on their hands.
Yes, and they're very lucky for that.
Yeah.
No, I actually would have some stolen moments at work. Being in interventional radiology, I drain people's abdomens of fluid, and I would take time during those times because you're draining liters and liters off of them, and I'd be thinking of lines of rhyme, and I'm writing it down on the paper while I'm like, yes, we're draining, you're doing great. Counting out my rhymes. Ooh, here's a ride for Joe. Let's see, how could I make that work? So I'd walk away with like little pieces of paper off the sticker backs that we have that we use for our trays and stuff. And so I've just kept all of those. It's pretty funny looking at my notebook where I've just taped all those in, but it's all just ideas that come at the moment. So you're just trying to think of how you can steal some moments and put it together. And then at night I'd sit at the counter and try to draw out with my little colored gel pens, looking real fancy, and just try to put it all together and you know, type it up once I got further and with my sketches and ideas to just kind of create what I wanted to give to the illustrator and whatnot. So it was just constant,
collecting notes all the time. It sounds like,
and
right?
trying to put it in order, and you do what you had with the time that you had for it, but it wasn't easy.
So it's just, well, it keeps your mind active, right?
Yeah.
You're constantly
in a creative way.
Yes, in creative, and nourishes your mind as well to be thinking of something so cute and funny. Yeah. So what is your message out there for our audience?
I had to think long and hard on that, and my daughter said something about stay weird, and I was like, okay, well, we could go with that.
So she should be on the program too. I feel like
you'd never get her out of here. She would love it. She's fantastic. No, and it really is just, if there's something that you want to try, be it writing a book, writing poems, writing a travel guide, something like that, just try. We're going to fail. We're always going to have something that trips us up, something that worries us, something that you have to go back and fix and redirect and all that. And we all came across all that. But it's okay. And that's a hard thing to remember. It's okay. And so just keep putting one foot in front of the other. If it's something that you want to get done, but you're overwhelmed and intimidated by any big publishing and things like that, find someone small. That's why I was so grateful I ran into PJ Hartness with Whistle Slick Press, and so that I could just kind of have someone to help guide me that wasn't overbearing, wasn't crazy, and it was just like, and here, this is what we need to do. And you could take the small steps, and it just really made things easier. And so I just encourage people to just try. And it's okay, you're gonna fail along the way, but just keep getting back up and go with it.
Well, I think it's a great message that Kitty Hat, being only 32 pages, took 3 years, in the making, and at the time you probably didn't think it would be 3 years, or
no, I did not,
or you probably thought it would be, maybe you wouldn't end up in a
and at one point I just gave up hope. I just
Yeah.
thought, well, this is never going to get finished, and so I'm glad that I, like I said, had that serendipitous meeting, and wow, I mean, it's beautiful.
It is. It is. It's a lovely book to gift, or to have around. So.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Heather, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for watching. Join us next time on Off the Shelf.